Councilman Phillips, Councilman Casella,
Here.
and Supervisor Thurston.
Here. Everyone rise in your respective areas and pledge allegiance to the flag. Mr. Casella has one. I don't know if Mr. Paoloni has one back there, but let's start. I
pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of America,
and to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation
under God,
Indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, be seated, please. Let's see, Bill was asking me, are you guys in? It's telling me address invalid. Is Tom there? Is Tom listening, Bar, or somebody?
Yes. Yep.
See what we can get Bill on. Tom?
I'll send him another invitation.
Okay, you're on now? Okay, good. Okay, thanks. We just did the pledge, so welcome, Bill Beal.
Thank you.
Yeah.
They're both having troubles getting on. They just sent us a text.
Yeah, I was having trouble too, initially, so we'll work out the bugs, but so far so good. Greetings, Bill. Okay, the first item is a motion to adopt the agenda for tonight. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to adopt the agenda for this evening.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. The next item is a motion to acknowledge the minutes for the meeting of January 11th, 2021. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to accept the minutes.
I just have one statement I want to make on this.
Sure.
So last month we had asked for, the bank statements to see how much money was in the various accounts. That was something I had asked for in the last agenda and minutes. I'd like to make sure that we actually get that. So maybe at the next town board meeting, Frederick can provide us with the information.
Sure.
Other than that, no objections to acknowledging the minutes.
Okay, so motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. Next item is a motion to open the public portion of the meeting. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to open the public portion.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. Mr. Clerk and Joey, do you have any comments that have come in at this point?
I was informed by the town legislative aide that no comments were available at the time of the meeting.
Has anyone else received any comments or other communication? I have not myself.
I have not either.
Okay, seeing none, then do I have a motion to
I'll
close?
make a motion to close the public hearing.
Okay. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. So I'll start off, with some, comments as I always do. First and foremost tonight, I'd like to express our deepest condolences and sympathies to Councilman Beal and his family on the passing of his mom, grandmother, and we really are saddened by it. Fortunately, I'm in quarantine, so I couldn't attend, but I hear, Bill, it was a lovely ceremony for your mom, Catherine Mary Bill. And again, we extend our really deepest heartfelt sympathies to you and the family. So.
Thank you. My thanks on behalf of my family to the town board for their thoughtfulness and for those that were able to attend representing the town today. We greatly appreciate it. My mom always was fond of being involved in representing the people, not necessarily the politics side of it, but representing our neighbors. This is the most pure form of democracy here in town government, right? So she greatly would have appreciated all of your thoughts and those that could attend. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. And
Very welcome, Bill. And I hope your father's doing very well as well.
For the record, Councilman Bill, somebody, I guess
Somebody's on mute. There was Frederick.
Okay, it's Frederick. So, moving on, for all the board members who are aware, and for our, public, unfortunately, we had to close down town hall at the end of last week because we had one case of a member of our senior center that was asymptomatic. These various strains now are causing a lot of headaches because of that. Don't find out until later on. And we did a close down on Friday in order to thoroughly clean town hall. And then decided to go to an appointment only system. It was complicated some more today by the nature of the virus, where we found out that one member within our staff has contacted and tested positive for COVID. So we've extending our closure to thoroughly clean town hall tomorrow. Steve Frazier has arranged for that. We have a company that we rely on for doing that, and then we'll continue to be open for appointments only. We have drop boxes, secured drop boxes that are located in the northeast and west wings of the building. Also, we are operating with some staff in the building, those that felt uncomfortable or concerned because of health reasons. Are able to work from home because we have established policies to do that, including at a recent last time board meeting. So we're going to continue with that protocol. Hopefully, we can reopen to the public in the not too distant future, but it all depends on how the COVID virus and spread continues. There is in the county some good news in that we have been seeing some of the very high numbers trend downward. Not significant in the sense of the large number we had, but the active cases now are over 1,800 in the county, but that is down. The active cases in the town are at 142, but is down. And hospitalizations are at 145 people, which is also down somewhat from the high. Unfortunately, January was a record month, in bad sense of records of 300. Well, total deaths so far to COVID in the county are 337, but it was a record high month for that unfortunate situation. According to our county executive, who we are in constant communication with, and Councilman Beal, daily, minute by minute, actually, working on these issues. We are seeing a lessening of the surge, but the real concern is, and I encourage everyone to continue with strong COVID protocols because of the now what are at least four variants that we know, including California, Brazilian, UK, and South African ones that are perhaps more virulent and faster in the spread as we've seen it. So I want to again encourage everyone to continue to wear the masks, to follow hand washing and sanitation protocols. But the area of I know greatest concern and worry, because I think all of us have been getting a number of calls, inquiries from our residents, is what's happening with vaccination. And I know today during our briefing by the county executive, we have a very frustrated group of people in that, the numbers of doses that are being received by the state are down. At one point they're looking at 300,000 during a week. We're down, I think it's to around 250,000, but it means that the numbers that are available for our county and our community are not very high. 600 actually this past week. Another 600 is available through a couple of the sanctioned pharmacies, Tops and Rite Aid, and you need to try to contact those pharmacies as well. But I assure you, there's a long waiting line for each of them. But please go ahead and contact them. Also, we're watching the number of availability of doses for the county. I know that County Executive Marcus Molinaro, Bill Beal, and many others are very much spending most of their time trying to get more doses here. So we also have and will be putting on our various social media the information relating to availability in Dutchess County. There's a part of the county website which is called Dutchess Delivery. This is separate from the state's website, and we'll be posting that, and that will have more information going forward as to availability within the county sites, and enable you to hopefully sign up. But the information that we're getting is don't expect anything really substantial in the immediate short term, but we're doing everything we can, and I'm encouraging residents, if they have concerns, we can at least provide information to you. Councilman Beal, do you have anything you'd like to add at all, since you are on top of this issue?
Well, I don't know if you mentioned it, we have stood up two vaccination pods. One was at the Dover High School. I believe it's moving to a storefront in Dover. But it's a real challenge relative to supply of this vaccine. We believe that the pharmacy outreach process should be kicking in at some point soon, which will help. But at this point, making sure that our vulnerable citizens are having easy access to vaccination has been a real challenge, especially since when the links were being posted for those to register, many of those folks are not computer savvy. It's almost easier to get Super Bowl tickets than it is to get a vaccine, unfortunately, based on the limited number of supply. That's not the way it's supposed to be. So I can tell you that our county executive is lobbying the state and the federal government to increase the supply significantly so that we can do this in a way that will serve everyone more conveniently. And I hope to see in the next week or two those improvements. But we're working on this every day. Even being out of work the last few days, for bereavement, we've still been communicating every day about this. So rest assured that this county is leaning forward on this and working to make sure that we can get our residents the vaccines they need.
Sorry, I had unmute. Thank you, Bill. Appreciate it. We'll go to our discussion items. The first item is we're really greatly honored to have Maya Siegel here. Kevin, why don't you go ahead with the introduction and the other comments you're going to have.
Okay. Recently we had the American Legion oratorical contest, and while we only had one student from the county, she gave us a demonstration of her oratorical ability, both at the county level and the post level, and moved on to the district level. But before the district level, as a result of being such a good speaker, we recognized her at Ketchum High School, and we presented her with awards. The town has chosen to issue a proclamation in honor of Maya. But let me back up a little bit with a little bit of history. The contest, the oratorical contest, is strictly about the Constitution. And a student can pick any article or any amendment, any phase or phrase or clause, and orate about it. In Maya's case, it had to do with the right to vote. And she went up against a student from Westchester last weekend, the weekend before, and she won with an excellent presentation. So the proclamation reads, whereas on December 22nd, 2020, the American Legion recognized student Maya Siegel for the accomplishment of being the first place winner for the American Legion Oratorical Contest, and whereas the contest is an annual program and a student is tasked with writing a speech on any aspect of the U.S. Constitution. The speech is then to be researched, written, and memorized so that when delivered, it will last between 8 and 10 minutes. And now therefore be it resolved that the town of Wappinger supports the youth in our community and feels it necessary to recognize their accomplishments. And now therefore be it further resolved that on behalf of the people of the town of Wappinger, we congratulate Maya Siegel on this accomplishment. A job well done, Maya. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank
Well
you.
done.
Now, did we want to ask Maya to give us a minute or two? Dick, you're muted.
I can do a minute or two.
Yes, I'd love to hear. Sorry, I heard her once, but I think all the board would love to hear. Give a minute or two, if you would, Maya.
Okay.
Thank you.
One of the most important freedoms we have as American citizens is the right to vote. However, throughout American history, it was a right denied to many. From the founding of the United States, voter suppression and disenfranchisement have occurred. These suppressed groups of people, most notably African Americans and women, stood up and fought for their right to vote, which was eventually given to them. Unfortunately, voter suppression is still a problem today as candidates try and keep people from the polls and stop absentee ballots from being opened. The hard work and sacrifice of the generations that came before us cannot be taken for granted. It is the duty of every American citizen to educate themselves and exercise their right to vote.
Thank you, Maya. That was
Thank you.
fantastic.
Thank you.
Now, Maya will be performing again on the 6th of February at the American Legion Post in Beacon for zone level oratorical. And now she'll be working towards scholarship money. And I guess that's about it. And thank you very much, Maya.
Thank you for having me.
Kevin,
Thank you. Thanks for joining.
Eyes, Kevin. Okay.
Very nice.
Okay.
And thanks to your family too. I know they're on the phone. I really appreciate the dedication and supporting you for this great event. As I mentioned before, I won some speech contests when I was a young student like yourself, and it meant a lot to see you win this. So again, good luck in the future.
Thank you.
Good luck. Thank you.
Thank you. You may stay if you want to, or you may go and do some homework.
Thank you, Maya.
Thank you very much. The next item for our discussion is we'll continue to hear from Kevin, and I don't know, is Randy on here?
Yeah, Randy's on.
Randy's on? Okay, there he is. Okay.
Here I am.
And to give us an update on veterans matters, we did have, or they had, a meeting with the Veterans Committee on last Thursday, I guess
Yes.
it was. Actually, they bravely participated. We gave them the option because we had just found out about the virus infection, and gave them the option to leave, but they dutifully stayed on in the big room, so they were very much socially distant. So go ahead, Kevin, give us an update on what you've been doing.
Okay. The first and foremost on our plate is the fact that we're planning a 5K walk run in April, on April 17th. Now, that'll be a year later than we had originally planned, but the virus got in the way, so we are still planning on having it. We're looking at March 15th as the cutoff. If we are unable to have a live walk run, we will do it virtually. Now, we spoke with Gail Sherry of the Super Race System. She's out of Cold Spring, and she goes probably all over the country to help stage the races. And she explained that Storm King runners had a successful August 2020 race. Orange County runners did a Santa run in December with 140 runners registered. She described virtual versus live races. Virtual, there are no awards. There's online registration will be the same. best success if associated with a charity. In a virtual race, runners would have a tracking app in their phone. Now, you have to realize that the runners are serious. So they will have that app on their phone, and they'll have a timer, and they will have that phone with them at all times while they're running. Live, will have the virtual offered as well. Virtual could be a plan B. So the choices would be live or virtual, refund or postpone. Postpone maybe to the fall. However, we're being very, very optimistic. Now, Gail has information developed for a COVID race, which today she sent out to Jessica, Randy, and myself, and we're going to review it. There's masked and distanced pre and post race conditions, and she talks about spacing. She talks about running in lanes, and we're going to have to see about adapting what she suggests to the rail trail. Now, I explained to her the rail trail is half paved and half hard packed dirt, so that we should be able to, in a live situation, have runners going in one direction and then the other. And what we plan on doing is having considering it'll be live, we'll start off with the road runners, who are the serious ones, and they will start off spaced by about 15 seconds each, so that when their full number is on the track, the returners will probably pass them, so they will be on the dirt, but it's hard packed, so there's not a problem with that. She says that permits need to be in place, and Jessica's well aware of that. The faster runners, which is the road runners, they'll go first, and so actual timing is a concern to be dealt with, and she's got timers, she's got all of the logistics in hand to successfully run this race. And that's about it. We will continue to set it up, and we will continue to report, and that's all I have.
So March 15th is the decision date.
Correct, Amundo.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. Thanks to the committee. Next, I'll move back to Frederick. You know, there's
Dick, excuse me, Dick.
Oh, okay.
Can I speak about the other half of the?
Oh, sure. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay, sorry. The 5K is only one part of the weekend that we're planning. It's going to be a 2-day affair called a Heroes Weekend, where we're going to recognize veterans, we're going to recognize first responders, and COVID victims. If the marathon is on Saturday, if we are allowed to have it on Saturday, that will take up most of the day. However, if it's virtual, then we'll be able to, on Saturday afternoon, over at the List parking area, we're going to unveil the Wappingers Veterans Memorial Highway sign. There are two signs, as you remember, one in the south and one in the north. This will be the northern location near Subaru, because we have that parking area over there. That, like I said, that'll be if it's a virtual. Also on Sunday, we're opening up a ceremony for a proposed town hall Heroes Plaza. This is one of Dick's ideas. He gave it to Kevin and I to work on, which CPL is also working on. We're proposing a ceremony dedicating 2 trees and 2 benches in that area. One would be an MIA tree, and one would be a COVID victim tree. Also, we were thinking at that time of unveiling Kevin's banners for the hometown heroes, or at least showing what they look like. We already have a few residents who have given money, including myself, for my father, for the veterans banners. Also, we were thinking of Jessica's project, the Unsung Heroes, of showing, having some of them show up, and also having the bricks that Kevin has been working on very diligently, showing the pavers. And Dick would like a chance to have some new flags put up in that area also. To conclude that ceremony, we were speaking to Bill Beal, Councilman Beal, about this. To conclude it and to really show how we feel, we'd want someone to ring the bell that's out there in the plaza and have one of the fire sirens go off at the same time, as for the victims or for the first responders. Kevin, did I cover everything?
I think you got it all, Randy.
All right. But it's all up in the air because of the COVID situation.
But a lot of planning going into it, and hopefully other board members can, participate with their ideas and help on this. But we're getting a lot of good involvement in this, thanks to Kevin and Randy's efforts. They've been putting a lot of time and energy into all this. So thank you, gentlemen.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Our pleasure.
Any other comments or questions for them? Okay, seeing none, I'll move to Frederick. I wanted to first cover Kevin since Mayo is on the phone, and now Frederick, we'll turn back to you first to give the board and the community a report on our financial condition year ending based on what you have to date. So go ahead and do that. Then we'll cover the policy proposal after that. Okay, it's all yours.
Thank you so very much, Supervisor. The last presentation I made was on December 11th, and I had some projections of end of the year fund balances, so I will be presenting an update. Earlier on, before you started, there was mention about some bank statements which I wasn't aware of, but if you'd like, I'll email them to you tonight so that you can look at our bank statements. There was also a question about what was our estimated fund balances at the beginning of the year. I would assume that you are referring to my estimation as of December 11th, but again, we can discuss that later on. So,
Frederick, I'll interrupt you. My question was, what were the estimated fund balances that went into our budget projections in comparison to where we actually ended up? So you can address that when you go through the financial. Okay.
Okay. All right. So I will basically address our revenue items and then expenditure items. Just give highlights of where we are at this point in time. So looking at our main revenue items, we have rental of real property. We had budgeted for about $195,000. We are at $242,000, excess of about $48,000. Fines and forfeited bail. We didn't do very well on this item. Only 66% of our budgeted revenue received so far. The last time I reported, there was an issue about one of the months that we had not received from the New York State. We have not received it even up to now, but we were able to get some copies of statements they had sent to the Justice Court. And so that is now out of the... So we are going to use the statement that they sent to the Justice Court to estimate the revenue that we will record. And it's about $5,000. We didn't do very well for the month of July. So total revenue today for fines and forfeited bail is about $167,000, but that does not include December because we are waiting for December numbers. The main one that I'm happy to report is the mortgage tax revenue, and I've mentioned this to all of you before. We had a budget of $495,000, but we were able to overperform here. $906,000 mortgage tax expected, an excess of about $457,000. Building permits, we budgeted $300,000. We are reporting $350,000, excess of about $50,000. Sales tax, as you know, we have an agreement with the Dutchess County. We are guaranteed about $1,094,000. We have received 700,000. The rest will be coming in, I believe, and all will be going to the B fund, about 484,000. Chips revenue, nothing changed. We spent about 278,000. We got 80% of that back, 222,000.
So, Frederick, just a question on that one. So,
Yes.
when we did the paving, we did the bonding for the paving, we only assumed about 135,000. So we actually overachieved what we were expecting to get in from the CHIPS revenue, right? Because we assumed 135 in the bonding we did for the roads we paved this year. We actually got almost 223,000. So a pretty significant increase over what we thought we were going to get. Even though we're under budget, we're still above what we thought our estimate was going to be, correct?
Yes, correct.
Thank you.
You're right. So in summary, the main funds, A fund revenue 4.6 million. You can see that is about 11% over what we had budgeted for. Although you do remember that we had appropriated about 490,000 fund balance to help with the appropriations for 2020, and I'll talk about that later on. The B fund revenue to date 939,066%, and as I've mentioned earlier, there's 484 expected because of the agreement with the Dutchess County of a total of 1,094,000. Highway 4.1, almost 100% of what we budgeted for. If you also do remember, last year we did some budget amendments, and I just wanted to highlight some of this, significant budget lines. We have the attorney fees. We did modify the budget to increase because by that time we had only received bills up to the month of August. So most of them have come in, but we are still left with about 2 months of legal bills to be processed. So we are yet to receive them from the attorney. So we are at 155,000. That is the A fund line legal out of a modified budget of 184. The B fund, we are at 62,000 out of a modified budget of 70. Now the highway, we are at zero out of the original budget of 10,000, and this is mainly because most of the legal expenses, even though they may relate to the highway employees, maybe negotiating the contracts, usually, according to the law, all those legal bills or claims are charged to the A fund and not the highway. And maybe Jim can expound more on that if he's here today. But we have not had to charge anything on attorney line in the highway fund. Engineer fees, we also modified the budget to 176,000. So we are at
Let me interrupt you, and Jim, maybe you can comment. But we have had some expenses with respect to some of the labor types of issues. Shouldn't those be showing up here? And maybe Sarah knows too, but we have the labor and employment law issues that we have seen some. So I'm just curious where those may be, or have they not come in?
So they would typically be in an A fund expense. Controller has opined that it is not permissible to charge professional fees against the highway fund. So the highway fund is for the same reason why the highway, the garage is taken out of A fund. The DB fund is for highway improvements, salaries of highway workers, paving, and that's about it. So there's 4 categories for spending of highway fund. It's for equipment, snow removal, paving, salaries, machinery repair, drainage work, and bridges, but we don't have any bridges. that we have jurisdiction over.
Right, yeah, on their county bridges. Well, and if that's the case, then why do we have $10,000 budgeted for that, line?
It should be, it should come out of there,
Okay,
so.
Well, sometimes we do have legal expenses relating to highway. For example, if we were doing a bond, let's say for the paving of roads, and maybe we had to.
Oh, right. I guess that would be an appropriate charge, right, for the issuance of.
Okay, good point.
Of bonding, yeah. I guess for bond counsel work, it would be appropriate. Because the payment, Frederick, the payment of the bond for paving work comes out of the DB fund.
Yes, correct.
Right.
But we did have bond counsel work last year. That was not then charged yet to this line, or we can discuss it offline.
Yeah.
Right.
Go ahead, Frederick. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Sometimes that actually, gets included in the debt service itself.
Okay.
So, it may not show up as being a straight legal line.
Okay, very good. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Frederick.
Yeah. Let me just address that. Usually there's a line which we call is line DB 1380.400. That's where we normally include the debt counsel, the rating agency, and the advisors charges. So maybe that's why it may not have come here directly. But as Jim has mentioned, there are usually some charges which would this line. Moving on into the health insurance, I just brought this. I wanted to mention about health insurance because we came under the budgeted amounts. In the A fund, we budgeted 625,000. We came in at 618,000. In the B fund, we budgeted 144,000. We came in at 140,000. And then in the highway, we budgeted for 493,000. We came in at 446. But the total of these health insurance expenses equal 1.2 million, which is quite a significant expense. And I just wanted the board and the public to be aware that this is one of our major expenses. In summary, A fund total expenditure paid to date 91% of the modified budget, 4.6 million. B fund 1.1 million, 77% of the budget, and highway 3.8 million, 91% of the budget. Now,
you know what the excuse me, Frederick, I'm sorry I can interrupt.
Yeah.
Do we know what the health insurance was for 2019? So you said we're 1.2 million in 2020. What was it in 19?
It was about 1 million total.
Okay.
Yeah, about 1 million. I just wanted to mention briefly about our cash at the bank as at the end of the year. Last year, A fund we had 1.5 million, B fund 5.2, and highway 2.1. And I can send you the bank statements tonight, so you can appreciate. The current fund balances as of right now, these are the fund balances. A fund 1.2 million, B fund 4.6, and highway 2.2. And my estimated fund balance when everything is done, or all the expenses included, is A fund 999. I know this is different from what I had reported December 11th. I know I reported 800,000, and I'll let you know shortly why it's now showing 999. The B fund 5.0, 5.0, and then the deep highway 2.1. So what I did simply for the end of the year estimated fund balances, I took the actual current expenditure year to date, and the only thing I adjusted for the A fund was add an additional 300,000, which is just a nominal amount. And then in the B fund I added 100,000. That is expected expenditure before the year is actually closed, and then in the highway again 100,000. So that is why, if you look at the current fund balance is 1.2, but then the estimated is 300,000 less 999. And of course, this balance.
So for the B fund, right, you went from 4.7 to 5 million. Did you add 300,000?
This is because of that sales tax, the 484,000 that hasn't come in from the Dutchess County.
So you added the sale tax less $100,000, and that's how you came up with the 504, or roughly $300,000 difference. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep. So that's about it for the financial highlights. If you have any other issue, maybe we can address it now.
I do have another question for you. Do you happen to know what the balance is in the Parkland Trust Fund?
Yes. Let me talk about the Parkland Trust now. According to the auditors for the year ended 2019, the Parkland Trust is actually a part of the A Fund. I think the supervisor was here when we were discussing this a couple of weeks ago when they were presenting the financial statements. So what they proposed was to actually transfer it from wherever it is in the T accounts to the general fund. They actually also did that for the year ended 2018, but I did not move it as such because I wanted to keep tracking it. So it's actually one of the fund balances, and the reason I think why they were doing this is because we don't really have a trust. There's really no legal trust that has been set up for the improvement of parks and such. I don't know, maybe Jim can correct me, but for financial statement purposes, it is a part of the A Fund, and the amount right now is the amount that was reflected in the accounts is about 600,000. I know that last time I did some estimation of how much is actually left or estimated to be left at the end of the year, and I may need to adjust that because there's some monies that we expect and some projects that haven't actually taken off.
So, according to statute, it's limited, for purposes for which it can be expended.
Yeah, correct.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's so the way I've seen it treated in most municipalities in the past is, as you said, it was a T account in a trust fund account. It's the first time I've actually ever heard it being included within the A fund, but it's not going to be like other A fund revenues or balances, because it can't be used for, it's a restricted fund balance.
Exactly, yes.
Yes. So it's restricted in the uses that it can be expended for. Other, it'd be akin to a reserve fund for salt or retirement expenses or things like that. So there is a lot of, it would be treated, similar to other reserve funds.
Right.
We thought we can look at that a little bit to see exactly. It's not where it falls exactly. Always there's remained a little bit unclear, and I don't think
I'm not comfortable with this being included in the A fund. I'm not sure where this is coming from, but this has to be segregated from the A fund. It can't be part of the A fund.
Yep.
And that's why we've been successful with making sure that we've kept all these funds specifically separate, and we've looked at expenses individually based on statutory requirements. I understand maybe from an accounting perspective, it would be an all-town, expense. Maybe that's why it's being interpreted as part of the A fund, because it's for the entire town, right? But then
I don't even know if that's correct.
Right, I was gonna say, then I would argue
it might be a B fund expense because it's being generated by subdivisions, and the subdivisions aren't, or Parktown not.
Right. Then I would argue that you could not spend Parkland Trust outside, inside the Village of Wappachers. I don't know that specifically, but I would argue that it goes against the idea of Parkland Trust when they probably have their own resources for parks.
And they do. They maintain their own. They maintain their own Parkland Trust, and by statute they're allowed to do that.
So Jim, if you can look into Jim specifically, maybe just for accounting purposes, that's why it's showing up that way. But if we can get more information on how to properly label it within the budget, that would be appreciated. Thank you.
Frederick.
Right. Yeah. So what I've done, what I did in 2019, even though at the end of 2018 they actually transferred it through a journal to the A fund, I just left it where it was, or where it is currently in the T account, and that's where it is right now. But when they present the financial statement, they make some entries to move it from the T into the part of the general fund A, which is fine. So I think we can continue treating it the way we're treating, and then when it's time to report to the, in the financial statement, they can do whatever entries they want to make in order to reflect what they want to reflect. And I think Bill is right. We need to continue segregating it so that is clear. We can track it more better than if we mix it up with the.
Frederick, last year on the annual update document to the controller, how was it reported?
It was treated as a special, as a special fund.
Right.
Yeah.
So is that contained within the 999,000, Frederick? Then, so is that what you're saying, within the Parkland fund, or is it separate?
No. Yeah, it's not included there.
So last month we reported it separately, and now all of a sudden we're kind of combining because of T accounts. I mean, it's either have whatever the number was, 450,000, 500,000 for Parkland Trust, and then 999 for the A fund balance, or they're combined. Just trying to figure out what the right number is, because as we plan projects going into 2021, we want to make sure that we have money set aside specifically for Parkland Trust for playgrounds, et cetera, what else recreation we want to do. So
Al,
trying to get what the number is.
Right. So,
what Frederick quoted as the number is the number. I think that the accountants are saying one thing, but Frederick still segregates it separately.
Exactly. And for the purposes of my reporting December 11th and today, it's not included in this estimated fund balance.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
Yeah.
And that's the appropriate way to treat it. I mean, in recent years, there has been, some updates regarding governmental accounting and how things have to be reported.
Right.
So I assume this is a reflection of that.
Right.
And unfortunately, it kind of muddies the way we have to do business when, a government, municipal accounting nationwide changes their standards. Because here in New York, we have some quirks that other states may not have.
I think we have been successful, Jim, and I'm sure you'll agree with me, because we segregate these accounts and these funds successfully from expenses to revenue. This town, I believe, is different than most. We look at every dollar that comes in and dollar that goes out and which fund it is related to very specifically, rather than looking at the whole budget globally. And Al, you can agree with me on this. We dig in every month, and I don't want us to inadvertently create a situation where we could have intermingling of funds, because in some municipalities that has occurred, and it doesn't end well.
I agree, Bill. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
I mean, the biggest, areas of concern from municipal attorney's point of view is proceeds from bonds and Parkland Trust funds. So, those are the areas that, really deserve, attention. And then when you have A and B funds and highway funds, it becomes more complicated. So, we have a village, so, we have to be more attentive than some of the other towns in the county.
Jim, will you find out if it should be an A or B fund? I mean, designated, because
I mean, frankly, for purposes of what we need as far as from day-to-day operations, we should treat it as a separate fund. This is really, and I believe that the New York State Controller's Office is going to treat it as a special fund. So the only time this is really going to make any kind of difference is if we're going to be reporting to bonding agencies or things of that sort, as far as how it's going to be treated on the balance sheets. So from a day-to-day operation, it doesn't really matter the whole lot. It's just going to be, for purposes of bond rating agencies and accounting reporting, whether it gets lumped in with one fund or the other. But for all practical purposes, day-to-day operations, it has to be a separate fund.
so we just know going forward, whenever Frederick reports A or B fund, whichever when we figure it out, it's going to be less the Parkland Trust money.
Yes.
Okay. Perfect.
Right.
Yeah, we'll continue to keep it separate for all of our, purposes and, tracking all of our money spent. If there's some accounting aberration, then that won't affect us here. So.
Yeah. Another change that the Office of the State Comptroller has made is on reporting of the AIM fund. We usually record it under revenue line A3001. Now it's supposed to be A2750, which in the past used to be like for donations. And then, of course, the auditors were mentioning about escrows. They're saying that going forward, maybe for 2020, we may have to include escrows as part of the B fund general, expenditure. So we are going to have to learn how this is going to work, because escrows are supposed to be separate, but then to be together as part of the B fund.
Real quick, New York State is deciding that the AIM funding is charity to the town?
That's what it sounds like.
The name of the line is line.
So, and just most importantly, relative to AIM funding, we're still anticipating the AIM funding for this fiscal year, correct?
Yes, we did budget 220,000, and that's been consistent over the last couple of years. So it's still 220 in the income and 220 in the expenditure under DB.
Okay, all right. So we're going to be, Dick, at this point, it looks like they're going to be providing us with AIM funding for this year. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Right.
We don't know next year, but we certainly know this year.
1 year at a time.
That's right.
Exactly.
Well, it's charity, so
Yeah, sure.
we always count on charity.
Frederick, first, anybody else have any questions for Frederick on the financial report, so we can move on to the next item, yes?
Thank you, Frederick.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So Frederick, why don't you report on this policy that we're proposing? As we've discussed before, and I asked Frederick to put together a policy that would allow us to better track our capital assets, account for them, forecast them, look at them. And so you've all received a copy of it, but Frederick, why don't you summarize what we're asking for, for the board to consider?
Yeah, so this capitalization policy came out of the auditor's report, in which they stated that the town has not adopted a formal policy regarding the capitalization of assets, that the town may not be able to accurately account for these capital assets on the annual financial report filed with the New York State, and also that the town should consider adopting a threshold of at 5,000 and above for maintaining a list of capital assets. So that is where this draft policy came out of. So I reached out to Jim, and Jim was able to get some sample policies, which is what I revised, and the supervisor had some input on it, and that's what you have before you. So it's basically a policy to enable us be able to address how we are going to treat our capital assets from land and buildings, vehicles, and all types of assets. And it's standard for most of the towns to have a capitalization policy adopted. So that's what we have.
And additionally, it enables us to track the useful life, so we don't have to wait until well beyond, well, the wheels are falling off of Steve's trucks or something of that nature. And then also to properly record them, through, computerization, so we can do barcoding, whatever means that we're going to, finalize on in order to keep the proper, record for those assets.
Right.
So
Yeah, the purpose today was just to present it. We can discuss it, look at it, and maybe at some point in future adopt the policy for our use. An example here, they're saying that, the proposal is that land should be capitalized at over 100,000. Maybe that's too much. Maybe we should consider a lower number. Buildings, 100,000. Machinery and equipment from 5,000. Infrastructure, bridges, roads, 100,000. And the ones that are supposed to be depreciated and the ones that are not supposed to be depreciated, how we are supposed to treat assets when they're disposed of, and what type of assets can be written off without referring to the town board, and how much, and so on. And then there was also a proposal to come up with a list of our assets and for an inventory of assets, and then label them, put tracking devices, not later than August 31st, 2021.
And we could move that date if we want to. I just put it in there, and as I think I've discussed with some, folks that, maybe there's a way with a student intern or something that I'm not talking about, ours, but an intern that we bring in that could help doing the cataloging, because I don't think that Steve or Mike or any of us have the resources to go do that, full time. But that's why I put the 31st date. It might be, it's possible to move it up. But what I'd like to suggest is that, you all, take a closer look at it in light of our discussion, and then perhaps we can have it as a resolution at the next meeting. Because I'd like to get it going so that we can then start doing the job of collecting creating the database of the inventory.
So that's a good policy. This is something a lot of the large corporations have it. I know that, TI, IBM, a number of other big companies have very similar processes there that Frederick is describing here. And what it does allow too is, we've been asking for this, is give us a 3 to 5 year projection of when, the asset life's gonna, end, so that we can start planning ahead, so we can do bonding, et cetera. I know, Bill and I and Dick and team have all asked for that statement. So this will help us to, improve our forecasting, also help us with, capital planning. We know we have a bunch of assets coming off the books in the next couple of years. So, as we start doing some of these things here, this will help us to, make sure our fund balances are still, fairly healthy, but also providing team with the services, the equipment and stuff they need to do their job. So I fully support this particular asset policy.
I totally agree, but I also think the department heads are going to have to take ownership on a lot of this, because they will know the movement of their personnel. They will know exactly when things are fully depreciated, and it won't be any surprises to us. And they can come to the board when they give their monthly updates also. So I think it's a great idea.
I agree, Angela. It will.
Thank you, Dick.
Angela, it would be part of the budget process and the responsibility that we're, requiring the each department head to take.
Right.
And, this is part of, even a bigger, process. Frederick and I will be having Noah Adelson from Unistat, up here at, or maybe in the next board meeting, or at least one in February, to further extend the forecasting of even budgets, beyond the capital assets. One of the things that we had found in our discussions with the rating agencies is that probably the only area that was not being adequately addressed was the overall ability to forecast what the revenues will be, what the debts will be, and so forth, going forward. So I think as we're looking at bonds that are being paid down, but other assets, other liabilities that we'll have, this is one part of probably a multi-part aspect, which Al's familiar, IBM, so are you, Angela. I am from my corporate experiences, and so is Chris and others. So this will be, I think, a very useful, a larger process that we'll have as well.
Agree. I think one of the things is putting together our assets. Like you said, getting an intern or something to help out with that, it could be a daunting task, but we own a lot of items, and if we don't know what we own, we're really dead in the water.
Yep. And it really, when you look at small items to larger ones, we have, for example, now a lot of electronics, a lot of, different tools that we're using quite well, but we need to track those, and we particularly need the useful life. So this is what it is, and I think next time we can please read it, and I'd like to get this part of it passed so we can start looking at it and getting it implemented. Any other questions, comments?
Thank you.
Okay, good. Thanks, Frederick. Very much. Go ahead, Frederick.
No, I just said thank you, and I just wanted to add that so we'll be on February 8th. That is our plan. We'll have Noah and his team, Mooney-Start, come and present about the capital improvement plan, and also is very knowledgeable to do with the debt structuring, how much debt we have, and what we can take now or 2 years from now, and how we can save money, and make sure that whatever becomes due, we are able to manage it within the budget process. Because right now, for example, this year we should be able to take in additional debt, which we were not able to do last year because there was still a number of debts that had not matured. So February 8th, we hope to have him come in, present to the town board, but before that we're going to have some discussions with him on how to present the information.
So they will have a PowerPoint, we'll get it out, but Frederick and I will have a meeting with them next week because I have some things that I want to make sure are addressed in that. But I think the important thing is with respect to the planning of capital debt, we do have money as we're paying off bonds, but as we've also seen, especially in the last couple of days, I think last 4 or 5 days, we've had like 3 or 4 major leaks in our water, system, and today, in fact, we had 2 leaks, and so, when monies are paid down on debt, that's also a sign that we might have to start considering, the replacement of, pipes or other, pump stations or what have you. So I, think we need to have a little bit better planning tool. And so Munistat will be helping us with that as well.
Good. Thank you.
Okay. Let's move on. And, certainly, welcome your comments offline with respect to, all this and other thoughts, especially, those that have had a lot of experience in this area. The next item is the authorization to sign concrete contract for Spook Hill Park. Tim's going to talk about it, but this is related to our ADA bathroom facility and moving ahead with the pouring the concrete that Steve's going to have to do in order to build the new building structure on it. We had only one bidder, turn in a bid on that for $25,000. So, Tim, why don't you discuss it? Then we can have a motion and vote on it. So why don't you just present to the board what you're proposing?
Sure thing.
Good evening, everyone. Is there an outside chance I could share my screen? I can pull up a quick sketch for you, walk you through it.
It's all set for you, Tim.
Go ahead.
All right, here it says host disabled participant screen share.
It's not checked. You should be able to share your screen.
Yeah, it's not coming up. Well, basically, I can walk you through. There's an existing asphalt apron in front of the building that's there. There was an overhang. That's all been demolished there, but the intent would be to have a contractor come in and remove the concrete apron. You'd have to create some concrete footings and a new slab, and there's also some concrete curbing that's proposed along the edge of the parking area. So we did solicit several contractors. I think Tom Harvey reached out to about 5 or 6 different firms, but the one that came in was the most recent. He did have another quote that was a little bit less, but the intent was that from their opinion that they would get all the work, and we have to break up the work, to make it fit the funding. So the proposal before you tonight is the best option to move forward at this point.
And this was approved by the county, correct? They had reviewed it.
Now I can share it. Let's see. Can you guys see the graphic now?
Yes.
Yeah, so
we
here's...
pay for it up front first, Tim, and then we get reimbursed by the county?
Yes.
Okay.
So this just shows the shaded area is the asphalt kind of patio area with the overhang that would be demolished. And then this would be replaced with concrete footings around, a new slab with some ADA accessible approaches, and then a concrete curb sort of around the edge of the parking area.
And in your opinion, Tim, this quote is a reasonable quote?
Yes, I've worked with this contractor before for the city of Middletown. He's also instrumental in the new track and field at Spack-and-Kill High School, so they're quite familiar with municipal work and civil site work.
Okay. We have a resolution later on during the resolutions for this item, so we can wait till then to vote on it. And any questions for Tim on this?
Looks good.
Okay, good. Let's move on to Steve Frazier, and Steve has actually 2 items. One is concerning his lift, the cherry picker that he's been discussing with us, but also the alarm system, particularly the control panel, which has been causing us a lot of issues. Steve, it's your chance for fame.
Right. During the budget talks, I had put what they call an articulated lift in the equipment line. We use it annually. I rent one to do the Christmas display. If we had one on hand, it would really supplement the work that we do. We could go around and clean gutters throughout the town at all the town properties, do most of the tree work that we are currently contracting out, and it would just lend itself to many other uses. I spoke with Mike Sheehan, the highway superintendent. He said that his department would be able to put it to use as well. The normal regular price on this, when Councilman Phillips and I had gone to look at him, Councilman Phillips is pretty familiar with these, used to work in that line of business. A used unit was running at $45,000. I got a notice a week or so ago about one that they had come back off rental that they're letting go at a discounted price of $33,000. That's $12,000 savings over what we would normally be looking at. I think it's a very good option for us. The only thing I am concerned about is, we had talked about a replacement pickup truck as well. And, if I got to choose one or the other, we need to talk about that. But this lift is, if we can look at that as an addition to the pickup, we would need to move on that fairly quickly, as it's not going to last very long at that price.
Chris, you agree about the price?
The price is good. I would have it looked at. It's all hydraulic, so you know that you just have to have it checked out, mix with the hoses. I mean, you blow hoses all the time. Steve also has to realize anybody that uses it has to be trained. There's fall safety and stuff like that. But I was with United Rental Accessories for 12 years. They have quality mechanics, so their stuff is usually in great shape, and it is a good price. I think we just have to talk about need and stuff like that.
What was the price again?
It is discounted to $33,000 versus $45,000.
How many hours are on it? Do you know?
I believe it was 3,900 hours.
Chris,
and in the photos, you know, the paint isn't even wore off the platform on the thing. Which the ones I've been renting, the platform is bare of paint.
Okay.
Those are reasonable hours, and it is a good price. It's JLG lift, which is, you know.
Well, my only concern is that, I mean, I understand it's going to be a number of projects that he might be able to work on. It's $33,000. We spent less than $2,000 for rental fees this year. Payback is over 15 years.
Well, that's if you consider that the only benefit.
Well, so I'm also thinking about the 75 projects you have on your plate for 2021, and I'm wondering how you're going to fit anything else in on top of that, like trees, some of the other things you want to use it for. That's what I'm thinking about. If everybody else feels that this is the right decision to make, that's fine. But I'm just trying to figure out how, if your guys got to go through training, your workload is tremendous, as you told us a couple of times. We have, you know, over 75 projects you submitted to us that have to get done in 2021. How are you going to fit more stuff in?
Well, this will actually speed some of those projects along. I mean, I didn't go through to see how many of these projects we can actually use the machine on, but anytime that we need to use a ladder, this is going to be a safer option, and more it'd be quicker too, because you just move the machine by moving a lever rather than having to break down the ladder or reset it in a new spot. It save us a tremendous amount of time. If I have it at my disposal, I'm going to use it as often as I can. When I do rent the machine, I have to plan what I do in ahead of time, just so that I can make the most use of it under the rental fees. If you're only looking at it as using it to decorate the Christmas tree and such, then yeah, it doesn't make sense. But when I looked at it and started adding things up, I think that we can pay that back in 4 or 5 years.
Hey, Jim, is this a Parkland Trust possible purchase here? It's a capital expense for the purposes of maintaining our parks.
Potentially, you could also use, if Highway's going to use it, you can also take it out of Highway, as well.
Well, so let me say, I also talked to Mike Sheehan as well and a couple of his guys, and I asked them specifically, and I know you probably did too, Steve, but when I talked to Mike, and I think others may have as well, Mike said he didn't really have a use for it. If they can combine, that's great, but that's what I was told. I mean,
well, that's not what he told me. I called him up, and a couple hours later, he called me back and says, "Yeah, we can use it." Yeah, and that's not what he told me as well, Al. Because they do have trees, cutting. They do have the roofs. They do have a number, like at the highway garage, that they've. We have to talk about that, but had been working on themselves. So.
And where would you store it?
We stored it at our facility there at the barn. These are typically stored outdoors. Mm-hmm. We would store it at the barn with the rest of our equipment. I can contribute $10,000 from my equipment line, if that helps out, with the decision here. And, like I said, it's something we've been talking about for a couple of years now, and here we have a machine available at $12,000 less than what we've been looking at. Another example, where I think we certainly can use it, when we've had to clean out all the gutters and do repairs at the major
complex at Cornwall. For years, Steve wasn't able to get to some of that and do it because of the condition of the trees and the roof and everything else. Now with this, that allows them to keep it up. I think also to cut back some of that loose wood, get some of the things repaired. So I see a number of things that can be used for, and I would be in favor of doing it. The town once had it, as I think Bill can tell you, but then when Steve was removed from his position, all that equipment was sold off, including the cherry picker, as I call it.
Yeah, we had a boom truck at one point, and I don't know what happened to that, but
yeah.
Well, I thought we ended up getting rid of that. We sold that for scrap, right?
well, yeah, it wasn't our proudest piece of equipment, Al, I'll tell you that.
I think what Councilman Casella was getting at is if we could show what this would save, why we need it, just put down what you would use it for and show us the savings. I think you would feel a lot more comfortable going forward, but I can do a lot of jobs. I have jobs to do. I can save a lot. I can do a lot. Put down some numbers, and then we could probably talk a lot clearer on getting it done.
Well, I mean, I can do that, but if we sit and wait and, for another meeting to come along, this machine may be gone.
I think we need to include highway also, what plans they have for it, to be combined with whatever you have, Steve.
Yeah, if he's got some lists, Steve, I'll be happy to listen to that. That's fine.
Well, I mean,
Again, when I talked to him, he said,
it's something
no.
that if Steve
Maybe he told you something different, I don't know.
Isn't it something that if Steve put it together, shot it to us, we could, we kind of said we agreed to it, but, we could certainly via email go forward.
the problem is it's more than $30,000.
Okay.
Right, so Jim, what's the procurement procedure for something that's north of 30,000?
It's subject to competitive bidding unless you buy it off a state bid or a county list or.
But I believe there's an exemption for used equipment.
Only for used equipment from another municipality.
All right, so we could theoretically right now.
I'll look at it, but like I said, I don't believe I can look at it, but
We could authorize solicitation of bids, or what's the process so that we can be in a position to satisfy procurement and then make an educated decision on February 8th. I know, Steve, you don't want to wait, but it sounds to me like we don't have a choice.
let me look at something during the meeting, and I'll see if there's an exemption.
So why don't we come back to this one and let Steve go on with the other one while Jim's looking at that?
Let me say one thing about this, though, guys. We may have an opportunity to finance this 50% DB fund balance and 50% either A fund balance or Parkland Trust funding. So we have an opportunity, in my opinion, to finance this in a way that there will be minimal impact. So just keep that in mind.
I'm not worried about the impact on the I'm more worried about what are the uses of it.
Right? Okay, so that being said, I will yield until the attorney is done getting his information, and Steve had another subject.
Yeah, go ahead to the alarm system, Steve.
Well, I'd like to touch on the pickup truck. We also spoke about replacing 2003 Chevy pickup, 150,000 miles, severe rust damage. The cost of repairs has exceeded the value of the truck. I went out and I got a quote through the state bid system of $39,100 to replace that truck with it's one of our snowplow vehicles. So, and it's also used daily to tow the mowers to the parks to, do the mowing equipment. So it's used on a daily basis. I had $29,900 of unspent funds from 2020 that went into the fund balance. And I would anticipate that the truck we do have would probably bring $2,000 or more as surplus equipment. So, we'd be looking at a net of about $10,000 if we were to apply those funds towards the cost of this thing.
Did we budget at all for this specifically or no?
I put it in, but it was taken out and said, we would discuss at this point. So here we are. I mean, and here's the thing. I mean, we did this last year and we kept kicking it down the road to the point where we got beyond the build out date of the trucks. So that the truck that I was supposed to get in 2020 is now being purchased here in 2021. And, we have risked doing the same thing again with this pickup if that's what we're going to do.
Right, but to be fair, you may not have gotten it in 2020 because the build outs were all pushed back because of COVID.
Right.
No, I came to the meeting with the build out date and.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, and we went past it by a week and, missed it. So I really would like to keep this up in the forefront and it doesn't have to be tonight, but I sure would like to address it at the next meeting at the latest.
I think, Steve, I'm sorry, Bill, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Supervisor. Steve, have you sent us the specs on this?
I put everything in an email for you a week or so ago, yeah.
All right, if I could just review that and be better informed on it, I would appreciate it. I'll take a look at that. Thank you.
Steve, what I'd like to do is next week is to sit down with you and assuming we're all able to from a point of view of the quarantine and so forth, but to review with you some of the concerns that I think a number of the board members have with respect to better identifying the tasks. We have that list, as Al said, of 75, but basically what I call the W3 of who, what, when, and then looking at from the cost benefit point of view, you and I can sit down and we can review that as part of, I think, the deliverable to the board next week. I have some questions that I received from some of the folks, board members, and then I can discuss that review with you and then work with you to put something.
Right, I feel that is something that should be a discussion rather than me just putting a bunch of numbers on a paper.
So,
handing it to you. That's something we need to have a back and forth discussion on.
Actually, what I was thinking of for those 75 projects, because Steve, you're the best at this. You have the most knowledge of the projects, what the priorities are, than anybody. And what I was hoping is you come forward with a list of the priorities, not have us prioritize it for you, but you prioritize it for us. Come back, show us what you think needs to be done, kind of give us the cost of what it would cost to do it if it's anything external, and then give us kind of a timeline of when you think it would be completed. Because, you do have, I'm looking at your list now, over 75
Is that the list I sent today?
It's the one you sent back on January 4th.
Okay, I sent a revised list out earlier today. And I did assign them.
Al, that's what I'm proposing. I sit down with him, walk through it, and particularly, take some of the questions that we have. And then out of that, Steve can develop that response or discussion. And I agree with Steve, then we should discuss it.
I'm okay with discussing it, but I think he should come in prepared to tell us what the prioritization should be. Because, again, he knows it better than anybody. He's out there day after day looking at, what needs to be done in the town.
Agreed. But I can work with Steve to help refine it.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, last item is the alarm system at Town Hall. Parts of that system are original to the building, and the current system, the panel is 15 years old. It's not compatible with the new phone system. I've had to work with him to get, what we are doing currently is renting 2 phone lines just for the alarm system from the old phone company. In my opinion, there's 2 options. Either just upgrade the panel and keypads at a cost of $29.83, or update the entire system, which is my recommendation. That is a cost of $73.10 from our current alarm company. What the full update would do would replace all the sensors that are involved in both the intrusion and fire detection. And these new sensors come with their own unique address similar to an IP number. So when something is triggered, the panel knows exactly which sensor has been triggered, and we can check to see whether that is an error or, is an actual problem. The current old style sensors don't have these identification numbers attached to them, and they're connected in 4 or 5 loops. So currently the pad with the control panel would tell us what loop is bad, and then each individual sensor would have to be checked and tested to find out which one was causing the problem. So, my recommendation is a full system update. As I said, some of those sensors are there since the building is new.
As a number of us can testify, and as Bill even knows too, there's been all sorts of faulty, alarms going out there. I know Sandra has pulled out, her hair a lot of times dealing with this as well as others, and so it definitely needs something be done to get a new panel in there, I think, and to do some other, work on it. A question would be, Jim, do then we have to put this out to bid, or since we have already an alarm system company that knows the system, it's been working on it, can we do it with them?
You may be able to do it based on standardization. I mean, I guess the question becomes whether you're looking at, a whole new system. If you're looking at a whole new system, then you would have to go out to bid. But if it was a situation where you need, you're trying to incorporate things into an existing system, you could get away with the standardization exception to competitive bidding. So,
Jim, here's some additional information. This alarm company handles all the properties in the town, and I would like to keep the symmetry there. So when we have an alarm problem, I call one person.
Which alarm company is it?
It's CSS, local to Wappingers as well. And here's something additional for the board. If those 2 phone lines, they cost $100 a month, and they would be eliminated with the new panel or the new system. Eventually the system's going to pay for itself. Be at a slow rate, but
is this actually, this is a public works project, so the threshold's 50, not 30. So, is this going to cost $150?
No, it's $7,310.
Yeah, so it's just under the procurement policy.
Just a couple questions, Steve. I'm not intimately familiar with the system. This is just the fire alarm system, is that correct?
Well, currently, the intrusion system and the fire alarm system are 2 separate systems. The new unit would combine, so there's only going to be 1 communicator versus 2 now. Okay. And we have switched over to a radio communicator, which is $18 a month versus $100 a month on the phone lines.
So so just clarify, if the fire alarm is activated, is that happening through a Wi-Fi connection, or is it happening through a transmitter?
A transmitter. It's actually got 2. All commercial installations are required to have 2 forms of communication, and one will be through the internet, and then the second is the radio communication.
Okay, all right, so there's a radio backup for it. All right, I support this, whatever we need to do. I've been dealing with this fire alarm over the years. It's time to replace it. It's antiquated. The intrusion alarm system being consistent with the fire alarm, I think, is important. I think that's key. It's not a secret that we do have a number of panic buttons in the town hall for security purposes. We need to make sure that those are going to be compatible and connected to the system as well, which I'm sure that's already been taken into effect. And then the fire door, I know there's been some issues with that, Steve. The fire door was failing during the last fire drill we did there. Has that been corrected?
Yes, and it turns out that the sensor that was used to trigger the fire alarm for the fire drill was not the sensor that triggers the door. So had that sensor been used to trigger the fire alarm, the fire drill rather, the door would have closed. I did have someone in last week and went through the door and did a full service on it. So that has been addressed.
Okay, because I believe for the fire drill, they pulled the box for the fire drill, is that correct?
Right, and that door is connected to a smoke head.
Okay, so if there is an active fire in the building, we pull the box, I would think that the fire door should still close, though.
I can talk with the technician on that.
It may just be connecting the correct, from the panel, so that any full activation should trigger the fire door.
That makes sense to me. I don't know the logistics of making that happen.
Okay, if you could just look into that, as long as it's operating at this point, that's good. Thank you.
So,
Question, are they checked on a yearly basis for functionality?
The fire alarm system is required to be inspected annually. Or actually, the alarm system, any commercial alarm system is required to be inspected annually, and we have been doing that, yes.
And that includes the doors?
The doors separately, but I've taken care of that. I wasn't involved in the installation of that door, and wasn't ever informed about the requirements of it. But I have learned recently that there are annual inspections required for that door as well, and I have set that up.
And they're in sync now? They would both be the same? And there's a sticker or something that goes on there the last time that it was, reviewed? Maybe we should do that?
I would have to look into that.
I know in the corporate world, we have stickers on everything when the inspections are and when they're due. So that might be something we might want to consider.
I did have the fire inspector involved in this, and he's aware of, both inspections taking place.
Right, but I'm just saying, maybe we should also have the stickers on that equipment.
I will, I'll check into that.
Perfect. Thank you, Steve.
To the credit of the safety committee and the fire inspector, some of these issues were discovered as a result of a fire drill that was done on site at the town hall with the fire department present, which is a good practice. They are exercising not only the alarm system, but also exercising the staff members on how to properly evacuate the building. So kudos to the safety committee and for reaching out to the fire department also. That's always good to have the fire department there to see how it works. So thank you.
kudos to Sarah for getting this organized, and we're doing it on a regular basis now with a full-scale committee that represents all the interest groups, unions, and so forth, Bill. So it's being done extremely professionally, but thanks to Sarah for pulling it together.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So, what's the intention of the board? To have a motion to authorize Steve to go do this, to incur that expense?
Yeah, I'll move that. We just need to know how we're paying for it. Did we define where this is coming out of?
Frederick? Is Frederick there? Yeah, he's there.
Wasn't Jim checking on it?
Yeah, I think.
On this one. Frederick, are you there?
Well, on the alarm, if there's nothing in the ballot in the line for town hall equipment, you could just do a budget transfer.
Well, I
it
think
would be an A-fund expense.
Yeah, I think there is funding for the town hall building expenses within the A fund. So again,
there's enough to cover it.
Either way, I will move that we authorize the supervisor of buildings and grounds to move forward on this, and then if we need to reappropriate any funding, we can do that subsequently. But I don't think at this point of the year we're going to have an issue finding money in the budget.
So what's the cost of this total thing?
$73.10.
$73.10. Thank you. I'll second it then.
Okay, motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays, abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. Thank you, Steve, on that.
So back to the issue before regarding the lift. I sent by email controller's opinion, which seems to be still in effect, that says that there is no distinction between the purchase of used or new equipment. So on a $30,000 purchases above $30,000 would be subject to competitive bidding. Be pretty easy to draft up the bid specifications. You've got the equipment that you're looking at, so you just basically, write it up as that. And if anybody can beat that, they can. So you know what the specifications of the equipment are. You can put in a, age of the vehicle, not newer than, not older than, a certain amount, X number of hours, no more than what hours. As far as drafting up bid specifications, they don't have to be very, very detailed. It's not necessarily a formal process, and I believe the bid time would be, I think it's 5 days under GML 103.
All right, so is it fair to say at this point we can authorize the attorney to create the bid documents? We're not agreeing at this point to purchase it, but at least we're getting the process going so that we can have an informed decision at the February 5th. Is that fair? If so, I'll move it.
I agree.
To that, Bill, I think to Al's point earlier, we need something on projects, savings, costs, that kind of thing. Just a rough outline, an idea. This way we could, like you said, make a better informed decision.
Yeah, that's what I said. I'll work with Steve next week on that and a W as well.
This way we will have in front of us at the next meeting, whether it's in person or virtual, we'll have in front of us the results of the bid, and we'll have a cost analysis in place so that we can make a decision at that meeting. Again, I'll move that we authorize the attorney to prepare the bid document and move forward. We can have further discussion and perhaps vote on it if we feel it's appropriate at the next meeting.
Yeah, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. Thank you. Okay,
Steve, if you just send me that info, I'll draft up some specs.
I'll have that for you tomorrow.
Thanks.
Okay, thanks. Next item is Cornwall Mansion temporary roof proposal. I'll have Tim Moot talk about it. This is one that we had looked at before, but I'm strongly recommending that we go ahead and at least preserve the roof. Along with this, I'm saying that we should also set a deadline, to at least as much as this board can do, for making a decision on what we do with the mansion for 18 months. This roof proposal, which would be temporary roofing over the current roof that is leaking, would last, according to Tim Moot, about 2 years, cost about $31,465, but it preserves the situation rather than allowing it to continue to deteriorate. Gives us a little bit of time to figure out what we're going to do with that mansion building. So that's what I'd like to have Tim at least discuss, and then we can have some discussion on it. Tim, turn it over to you.
Thanks, Supervisor. So we recently got this. Steve helped coordinate with Vanguard, the roofing contractor. So it's basically a drone flyover of the existing conditions of the roof. I'll just sort of go slowly through, but this picture shows, some deterioration along the edges. This has a unique gutter system referred to as a Yankee gutter system, which is basically a wood enclosed exterior gutter under the soffits. And there's areas along this is the access road where pedestrians walk, and there's areas along here along the edge that I'll show where this Yankee gutter is significantly deteriorated to the point where it is a threat that it could rot and fall off. And to Steve's to-do list with a lift, perhaps this is something that if he had on his to-do list he could get to possibly take down some of these items around the exterior before they were to fall and create a hazard. The video also shows the condition of chimneys. Again, one of our structural engineers visited the site 2 weeks ago to look at the back porch area, but he's looking at these pictures and there's other close-ups, but you can see there's cracks and moisture getting in. There's repointing required, and we would recommend that temporarily the chimney opening itself is temporarily closed to prevent moisture from getting down in there. But the intent of the pictures is to basically show the disrepair of the roof. The quote does reference applying plywood around the perimeter. That would give a little bit temporary shoring and also a secured surface to affix the tarp to. And again, it's an anticipated life expectancy of a temporary repair. Certainly, it's going to depend on weather events and things such nature, especially with the high winds and whatnot. But I think the intent would be is to basically buy time to figure out an overall game plan. It's our structural engineer's official opinion that you're at about the break point right now. The cost for some critical repairs, the old adage is stitch in time saves 9, versus the cost of demolishing the building. You're about at the 50-50 point. And the longer it goes unattended, then, the cost of demolishing would be the most economic route. But again, the intent was to show areas where we can't really access for human eye inspection. But you can certainly see, here's the Yankee gutter kind of in really bad shape along here.
Is that a heave in the roof there, Tim? Right through there? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, it looks like it, but I don't know if it's part of the skylight assembly or what. I mean,
yeah,
kind of hard to tell.
Got its own special skylights.
Yeah, right.
And you mentioned, Tim, that at least at this point in time, the wood structure, the roof was still good enough to sustain this tarp, system that you're proposing.
Yeah, but again, there's some reservation for having guys walk around up there.
I understand that. Yeah, I wouldn't want them to walk.
The quote includes 2 lifts to get up so that they don't have to traverse.
So if we looked at that, I think that it's in there for roughly 31,000. But what is and I know this does a temporary, fix, but what is the cost if we look 2 years out? Because that's all this is going to last. We talking, 100,000, 500,000, $1 million to get the building in.
Al, I'm saying we take 18 months and we set a deadline 18 months of making the decision. Do we, figure either that we can repair it and where's the money coming, or do we demolish it? I think this gives us some time to pull it together, because what, Tim is saying, and the structure is, basically sound as far as the main structure goes, but at the 50-50 point, if we don't do something, then in a sense you might as well demolish it now, and I don't think we're at that point where we want to make that decision.
All right, so if you want to put a deadline on when we're going to make a definitive decision, I'm all for that. I've been sitting here for 15 years putting Band-Aids on this, in the hopes that we could do something with it. We've really gone above and beyond to try to preserve this building. I believe from an architectural standpoint, there are some positives, but I will say I do get very nervous when I hear that there are people inside this building, and I've heard it again recently that there were people inside this building. This is a seriously hazardous condition. We should have no one in that building unless an engineer is present. I'm going to go on the record saying that, because this particular building is not structurally sound. The floors are not structurally sound. And I'm glad to hear an individual say that we don't want to put people on the roof. That should not be any consideration. There should be nobody on that roof. So
great.
The cost to put this temporary protection in place is $31,000, correct?
Right.
$31,465, correct.
What would you estimate the cost of demolition would be?
You already did. So state it again, Tim.
I don't. The cost to demolish the whole building, I don't have that number at my fingertips.
Somebody give me the number, Bill, of $465,000 to $550,000.
I've heard the number 500,000 also. Yeah. I believe that there might need to be asbestos mitigation. So that said, if we're going to come to an agreement that we're going to have a specific date that we're going to make a definitive decision, then I can understand what your methodology is.
And I am proposing, Bill, 18 months. The roof has a 24-month probably lifespan. 18 months. That would be July 31st, 2022.
Okay.
Tim, just for knowledge, what would what would the cost be to replace the roof?
I'd have to dig back through, and maybe I could pull it up for the next meeting, but there's been so many iterations of this. There's been talk of 1 to 2 million to do more than just the roof.
And Tim's right. I mean, the high end of it was like 1.2 to 1.5, but the low end I saw, and actually a couple people had looked at before, maybe in Vanguard, was like 500,000.
Yeah, I heard that too, 500.
Somewhere around here, Chris, but, right, Joey, you're there.
Yes. It was $500,000.
Right.
Right, but the roof is a small fraction of the issue here.
Right, it is, exactly.
My first town board meeting in 2007, we voted to put a significant amount of money into this structure to keep it standing back then. Little did we know what was going to happen in 2008, 2009 with the economic recession. So we were never in a position to do a major capital improvement on this building and have not been since. So, we could replace the roof for 500,000, but that's just a fraction of what needs to be done to this building.
Right, it's a tip of the iceberg, I think.
Right, I agree, Bill. So, Jim, would the monies be able to come out of Parkland Trust to preserve a building?
Yeah, I mean, that would be a capital improvement. With respect to, I don't know how much, I don't think right now we have enough money in the account to, do the overall work.
No.
And one of the things back, as Bill noted, I was assisting Al Roberts at the time and looking at the issue because of my engineering background. We had approached Joe Ruggiero. We were looking at getting grant funding from New York State Office of Parks and Recreations. And my recollection, I'd have to go back and look over the notes from the grant money, but one of the things that I think we were in line for a grant of approximately $500,000 with, I believe it was 100% match from the town. And at that time, one of the criteria that they wanted was, I think they wanted a slate roof, which was kind of one of the sticking points from, because they were looking at some of the historical architectural elements of the building, and because that's what
that was for the carriage house, Jim. That was for the carriage house.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and this building did receive approximately $200,000 from New York State Parks, Recreation, Historic Preservation under the Ruggiero administration already. Just for some background.
Right.
Yeah. So
that was
at least $200,000.
probably to take that probably had to do with taking those decks off that were around the building that was done around the late 2000s.
Yeah, because there was, there were heating system issues. There were,
right.
There were a lot of issues that were going around. And you're right, Joe. It was the carriage house. Now that I think about it.
I'd like to, just to move this along, is to have a motion, to approve this funding, but also in the record, the drop dead date, and then, we'll have some further discussion with respect to what to do going forward on this. So the motion I'd like to receive would be to incur the $30,465 expense.
Just a question on the 31,000, Jim. What type of procurement requirements are there? Is this considered a public works project, or how does this fall?
This is a public works project, so it's under, it's under the threshold of 50. So it's not subject, or it would be 35. It's not subject to competitive bidding. It would be under the policy. So I think originally at one point in time we had looked at, so here it would be less than 35.
Right.
So, because I believe at one point in time we looked at doing this as a change order on an existing contract when they were out there doing work, but that has since expired. So, but it's it's not subject to competitive bidding. It's less than 35.
What was the total amount, Dick?
$31,465.
Tim, is that the latest number?
Yes.
Okay.
And this is, which contractor is this?
Vanguard.
All right, Steve, are you in the loop on this project?
Yeah, I mean, somewhat. We've used Vanguard in the past. They did the entire job there at Town Hall. They did the roof repairs on the carriage house. And they've come down and made emergency repairs to the admin building from the storm damage.
So there's
someone that did the chapel, Bill. They did the chapel roof that you're looking at.
Okay, so what I'm getting at is Vanguard's a solid contractor, 31,000, whatever whatever it was. The other option is we got to spend $500,000 to take this thing down. Right. I do agree with the strategy of the supervisor of July 31st, 2022 is going to be our deadline to make a decision on this. Therefore, I will move.
I have a motion.
Well, I want to stipulate one more thing. If we're gonna make a decision on July 31st, 2022, we should make sure that, you know, if there's something going to move forward, because this is a roof last for another 6 months, that we have something in place that would say that either going to get grant funding or something else. We should know all that stuff by the 31st of 2022, because then we can make an informed decision.
That's already in the works. That will be there.
That's fine. Then I would second the motion then.
Okay.
Just on the point, Mr. Supervisor, did we clarify where the money's coming from? Is this going to be Parkland Trust?
That was my question, and it seemed like Jim was saying that it would be Parkland Trust.
Jim, are we good with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's acceptable unless you want to, take it out of a fund.
No, I'd rather stay consistent. This, in my opinion, is a capital project for the purposes of maintaining this asset. So as long as it's stipulated that it's coming out of Parkland Trust, I would appreciate it.
Okay. I have one question for Tim, for you all to consider here. Does that quote include any work for that chimney there that we see is about to collapse?
No. It's just for the temporary roofing. It doesn't include like the demolishing of the Yankee gutter, which is another safety hazard. So there's other factors.
Tim, you did say that it would include covering the chimney hole.
No, I'm saying that our structural engineer is recommending that things like these get covered up, to prevent further damage. But
so there's no estimate on the pointing of any of the stonework?
No. All it is really putting down a perimeter of plywood and then being able to affix the tarp over it. That's all they're
Tim,
doing.
when they cap that chimney, like you had mentioned, can we get that part of the chimney banded? Where they put plywood around it and then just band?
Yeah, what I'm suggesting, we just got these pictures today, like trying to get down and look at it.
Yeah.
I'd say there needs to be an emergency, like remediation plan, if you will.
Right.
And, maybe it can be done in conjunction with the roof repairs, being that there'll be a lift there and some things, but, I think we need to scope that out, but the first thing was to get the idea of getting the roof secured.
I guess the other question is, Vanguard being roofers, do they do the chimney work, or would that be a separate contractor?
I'd have to ask.
Okay.
I spoke with the owner about this because he is the one that sent me these pictures here. I had him down there for another thing, and he happened to have his drone with him and offered to do this. He did say that there's some type of metal banding that they could do to it. My concern is if you put that tarp on there, and those bricks come down on the new tarp, it's going to punch holes in it. And I'm more concerned about the tall one there, Tim. Not that one there. It's that one. You got another picture of it there where it shows the bricks are very swelled.
There you go.
Right there.
Yeah, and then the next picture too shows how bad it is. you know, I don't see those taking too much trouble to come out of that thing.
You know,
and then,
I think, you know, we have a motion and second on the floor. You know, Tim, you know, I think you could go and talk with it, but I think we need to get this up there before much more of the winter goes by, or else, you know, we're going to have to incur, you know, a lot of expense for.
That could always be a change order.
Yeah. So I'd say let's, you know, we have a motion and second, and then, you know, let's, you know, get Tim to look into several of these good issues further. Okay.
And again, I understand that that needs attention. I understand that, you know, the soffits need to be looked at, but I'm not interested in nickel and diming a significant number of increases on change orders moving forward.
Right. Agreed.
Just simply the water out of the building for now until we can line up our funding ahead of the July 31st, 2022 date. So therefore, again, my motion is for that 31,000 and change, just to keep this building dry.
And just renew. Do I have a second? Just to make.
We already had a second.
Okay. A motion and second. All in favor? Aye. Any nays? Abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. But Tim, please look into this further as far as these important issues.
So,
And I think it's important that we keep all personnel out of there.
Right. I agree totally. You know, we need a lot.
I think that's very important from a safety perspective.
Right. Okay. Very good. Let's move on. The next item not for resolution tonight, although it says resolution, but it's this Highway Section 284. I believe you gotten information from Mike. He's not here, I'm sure, prepping for the storm, but you know, we need to probably discuss this in February. Jim can remind us of the process again, but what the highway superintendent is proposing is 6.58 miles of paving, you know, this year at a cost of about $1,247,000, I believe, is the amount of money. But you'll notice the roads, I think there's some other discussion that needs to be had with respect to what we're going to do, particularly, I think, pertaining to Old Troy Road. You know, I've had discussions with Tim and Mike. I think they both agree that needs work to be done in phases, and at the next meeting, Tim can, you know, make a proposal. We're also talking about town hall parking and what we need to do there. But I just wanted to get this out there so we start thinking about it, and then we can have you know, further discussion when Mike's available to do it, and looking at the proposed list of roads. So that was the purpose tonight, to start discussion. Jim, what's the process again for approval of this?
So the biggest issue, and let me share my screen here. I don't know if everyone can see this. Frederick had given me, I requested some numbers regarding the budget itself. Mike's calculations, his estimate for the 6.58 miles of roads was 1.316 million. And the budget for right now for CHIPS reimbursement was 220,000, which was for permanent paving. And then Frederick has indicated that there's $55,000 left over from last year's, I guess, bond. So he indicates that there'd have to be approximately $1,041,000 to be bonded to accomplish the 6.58 miles of roads. Now, one of the things that we've done in the past was we did a projection out for 2 years and issued one bond for 2 years worth of paving. So, you know, and typically, you know, our CHIPS reimbursement monies are between 220 and 250, give or take, depending on paving and some of the other money. You know, our budgets have usually been pretty conservative on the CHIPS reimbursements. We probably look at consistently getting about 250 back give or take. So that's where we are. One of the things, as far as signing the agreement is a commitment by the town board to fund the road work that's there. So in order to sign the 284 agreement, you would have to have the funding mechanism to accomplish the road work to be done. So you would sign this 284 agreement at the time you would adopt any bond.
Frederick, you have any comments?
Yes. Yes. The comment I have is that the only way to reduce the bonding if the town board decides that we have to reduce the miles of road to resurface. But last year we had some a significant amount of money cash on hand, so that's why we only bonded for 475,000. But the only amount that is left over from last year, 2020, is only 55,000, and with the chips of 220, approximately, we'd need the 1,041,000 to be bonded. So if that is not possible, and that will be only for 1 year. And last year, I know the town board considered bonding, issuing a bond for 2 years, but ultimately they decided not to go for 2 years, so we only did 1 year. So probably we could do that again this year, but then depending on the miles of road resurfaced, the amount is approximately 1,041,000 to be bonded.
It's a big chunk of money, so I think we're going to have to look at this closely, particularly with other needs, and look at the list. So I encourage everybody to take a close look at that. I know there's a couple of roads that have some more than a mile of paving, but as I mentioned, I think there's others that we may also need to look at, in the weeks ahead. So, but I want to get it out there, so at least we consider it and start thinking about it.
I agree. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm actually very happy with all the roads myself, but
I'm sure you are.
Yeah, I know.
I'm sure you are.
Bill is less happy, about
I think I'm less happy.
Yes, I know. But seriously, I think we do have a couple of major issues that we address, and we'll need to have some more discussion on that.
I agree. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll come back to that at the next meeting and discuss some more. The next item is something I sent around to you just to see what temperature is discussion, but Central Hudson is proposing a rate increases that amount to about 2.8% for electric, another 2.8% for gas. Some municipalities have passed resolutions like Fishkill, but I just wanted to share that to see what our temperature may be as far as making some statement. I know our residents are continuing, all of us are suffering from a lot of cost these days. So that's the purpose there, to just see what your thoughts might be as to whether or not this is something we should consider or how to do it going forward.
I can tell you, I'm sorry, Angela, you're going to go ahead.
So far, $110.
So what I would tell you is I'm all for it. I mean, there's a lot of other towns that they're going forward and supporting the residents. I can tell you there's like 4 other towns that I'm aware of, in addition to Fishkill, which we got the letter from. So certainly, I want to keep the rates down as low as possible.
Right.
So I think we should move forward on the resolution. I'm not sure that, what it'll be able to do, but I'm hoping to at least take a second look at it, realize the rates are, pretty significantly increased, and that they're going to go back and say, it's too much for the residents to absorb, and hopefully, keep them flat year to year, or maybe just a small increase. But I certainly support the resolution going forward.
So far, $110.
So what I would tell you is I'm all for it. I mean, there's a lot of other towns that are going forward and supporting the residents.
I do too. I totally do. I have so many people, so many seniors, so many people out of work. This would just be devastating. Just another burden. But again, I'm not sure what it will do to resolve this problem.
But I think if you get enough towns and support in there, I think what happens is, you know, power is in numbers, so hopefully they'll take a look at it again. We're not the only town that's going forward with a similar resolution.
I agree totally. I mean, nothing gain, nothing lose. We have to do it, I think.
So I remember this town has sponsored resolutions similar to this in the past. I mean, I'll be frank with you, generally these resolutions are purely ceremonial because nothing ever happens. But that being said, we do represent the interests of our residents here in town. We are in an unprecedented pandemic right now. We are seeing unemployment numbers that we have not seen for a number of years. We're seeing senior citizens that are facing challenges they've never faced before. It's bad timing, I'll be honest with you. I understand Central Hudson has been impacted by more storm-related issues in recent years. I understand that they have more deliverables to the Public Service Commission. I get it. I deal with that full-time. I understand their perspective. But my position is this is bad timing to be doing any sort of an energy increase. And certainly our town, I would support to take that position. This is not the time. If they can wait a year, that would be ideal. If they cannot do it at all, that would be better.
I
Totally.
more.
Totally.
Did you look at Jim? Did you look at that resolution that the town of Fishkill passed? I did. I looked at it. I didn't see anything.
I did. I made some changes. They had a reference to the parent company Fortis. And
right. I saw. Yeah.
I didn't think that was necessarily germane, so I removed that. Just so the board knows, I pulled up the Public Service Commission proceedings regarding the rate hike. Central Hudson, I believe, filed the petition for the rate hike back in August. The New York State Public Service Commission had some proceedings virtually. They had public hearings virtually back in November. Dutchess County has participated in the petition and has filed things on behalf of the residents of the county. They took a fairly active role in the proceedings, and they filed briefs on behalf of residents of the county. And the Public Service Commission, I believe about 2 weeks ago, had issued a stay prohibiting any rate increases. Originally, the rate increases were intended to go into effect in the beginning, January 1 of this year, but they had stayed that. So that seems to be a helpful, at least a good sign that the Public Service Commission may further delay the rate increases.
So our vote representing 30,000 people could still have an influence.
Certainly, and there's, the area of rate making is a pretty complicated area. There's some constitutional concerns as it's a regulated monopoly. So, as a matter of law, as a regulated industry, the government guarantees that they make a profit. The question is, how big a profit do they make?
Right.
There's that. The other thing that the public and the board should be aware of is that this is just an increase on the delivery charges.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's not the cost of the electricity itself.
Yeah, you're right.
So to the extent that fuel prices go up and electricity charges, generation charges go up, those charges will go up as well. So this is just one component of the bill since deregulation, where whether customers now have the option of picking their own source of energy consumption. Even if you have solar, you're still paying the delivery charge.
Right.
So just.
But is that resolution that I sent around appropriate to even vote on tonight with some tweaking that you said to delete some references?
Oh, no, we drafted I drafted a new resolution which was circulated to the board.
Okay.
Well,
So,
I agree with
preference, Chris, what's your thoughts?
No, like I say, I agree with my fellow board members, and thank you for pushing this forward to us. I did read the resolution, and if we need a resolution to pass that, I'd like to make that motion.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, motion and second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. Thank you. And then we'll go with what you have, Jim.
And Supervisor, if I can just say,
oh yes,
I just want to separate my position on the rates from the level of service that we receive from Robin Moore and Victor Narkaj.
Right.
Central Hudson is very responsive to this town's needs. I want to say on a 24/7 level. They have been spectacular when it comes to pre-planning for potential storms and even during storms and even minor power outages. I'm sure the supervisor can attest to that. So I just want to make sure we take a moment to clarify that our position on the rates does not necessarily reflect our position on the level of service we receive from Central Hudson. Thank you.
Absolutely, you're correct.
Thank you. And I was actually going to make a similar comment because of another aspect of it. Robin Moore has advised me that he's retiring as of the end of this month. And so they're in the process of trying to find, the right replacement. And Brian Finn continues to service the town, who's been really dedicated. But I have written just a brief note to Brian personally, to Robin personally, thanking him. But I thought it may be appropriate for the board to have a brief, just resolution thanking him for his service and wishing him good luck in his retirement. And we could add some other words to embellish it, or I think, Bill, along the lines that you are mentioned, which is what I was thinking as well.
Yeah, I think to Bill's point, they do provide outstanding service. The one thing, what you mentioned earlier, Bill, was these are extraordinary times. Some people are in dire straits these days, and I think that this increase could adversely affect some of those people.
Yes.
Thank you.
So, would the board be in favor of just a brief resolution thanking Robin for his service and wishing him the best wishes, for his retirement? We could do something.
I think that's a great gesture.
Yes, I would. I would carbon copy that to the senior executives also.
Will do. And I'll also mention Brian in there because he's supported it on the ground. So do I have a motion for that?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Okay, motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. Thank you, folks. So we'll move on to our several resolutions. The first one is Resolution 2021-36. This is a resolution establishing wages for various employees of the town of Wappinger not covered under union contract. This is one that's normally in the reorg, meeting. I omitted, I neglected it last time. So you have the list in front of you.
So I just have one correction to that.
Sure.
If you go down to the assessor, 50% of 105 is not 47,000. It's 52,520. Second to the last line.
Is Frederick here? No. Yeah, Frederick. Do you have any comment on why that number's in there as it is? Or yes, you're correct. Al, that doesn't add up.
I authorize Frederick to buy a new calculator.
So there's actually another Gerald Owen. It turns out he's actually covered under the union contract. And Jess, are you in the union? You're not in the union.
No, she's not.
Okay.
Frederick, you have a comment. You're there now. Do you have a comment with respect to Christian?
Yes, there was to be a 1% increase from the current salary. So it should be, because I didn't get a chance to look at the revised resolution, but there should be 1,500 added onto the 2020 salary. And that's
they could ship to the 52,520, which is half of the 25,040.
Okay.
Okay.
It should be 52,520, yes, for us, yes.
Okay. So we can amend that one, and who else did you say was in the union? Because
The dog warden.
Jerry Owen.
Yeah, I never realized he was in the union.
Okay, so that.
No, it's not supposed to be. Jen is not in the union.
The title is in the collective bargaining agreement, though.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, so that if it's in the collective bargaining agreement, then we don't include it here. We'll have to address it later on, even though it maybe he's not in the union, but he's covered by it.
Right.
Right.
What was the outcome on the assessor again? I missed what he said. Was it math? The math was wrong?
Yeah, it should be half of 105,040, which is 52,520. He said he had another $5,000 and change he had to add. Right, Frederick?
Now, okay, so I think Frederick, the confusion's coming from the $5,000. Doesn't that come out of water and sewer?
Yes.
That's right, Bill.
Right.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, that's something we did years ago. I mean, I don't know if it still makes sense today, but just for the purpose.
Oh, yeah, it makes sense.
It does, Jim?
Yeah, he creates the benefit assessment rules.
Okay, so that's why it's not reflected on this particular resolution.
So that line is correct, that dollar amount, and although maybe, I think that's correct. So we can go with that, but then we would need to just delete Jerry Owen from this.
We also need to look at the 2 part-time solid waste attendants that are making less than minimum wage in New York State. That needs to be increased to $12.50.
Okay. Okay, so we can adjust that to $12.50, you say, Bill?
That's what it is as of December 31st, 2020.
Okay. Okay, so then those are 3 amendments. Any other catches? Anyone?
And I also think actually this should be retro. Is this retroactive to January 1?
Yeah. So why don't we do this? Why don't we go make these edits and then we can resubmit it at the next board meeting? Just so.
I think it's a good idea. It'll be clean. Yeah.
We'll proofread this one more time, Jim. I think you're right. It would be, and so then we can wait till the next meeting to do it.
In the meantime, if we can ensure that the individuals are getting paid at least the state minimum wage.
Right. Yes. Yeah, Sarah will take care of that. Right, Sarah? Okay. So do I have a motion to table? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed to table to the next meeting. Yeah, okay. The next item is Resolution 2021-37. This is a resolution awarding the contract for Spook Hill Park ADA restroom renovation concrete work. This is what Tim had discussed with us earlier, Tim and Steve did. Do I have a motion?
So, just to clarify this, we paid for this now and submit it for
reimbursement.
Reimbursement?
Yes, right. So we pay for this now, I guess, with this, Jim, where should it come from? Parks, from the Parkland Trust or some other way because we get reimbursed? You're on mute. You're on mute. Unmute.
It could come from either A or Parkland Trust, either way.
I would just take it out of A. It's coming back. It's basically going to be a pass-through.
I agree. Yep, I think it's best.
It's all in the same fiscal year, so it's not going to be an issue.
I agree.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, do I have a second? Okay, Angela seconded.
Actually, I don't know. I mean, Frederick, are we keeping separate capital account for this project?
If it's a capital project, normally we capture it under the capital fund, which is H, H, GL, H.
So I guess that would require what, a transfer into the H fund to pay for the
Yes, transfer money from the A fund into the H, and then send it from there.
And then it's going to be reimbursed back.
Yes,
but
unless it's if it's a simple project, not too much money involved, then we can.
No, this is a community development block grant program.
No, that would have to be a H account, a capital.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll take care of that process. So I have a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. Thank you, folks. The next item is Resolution 2021-38. The resolution authorizing release of security posted in connection with Calvary Chapel of the Hudson Valley site plan. Barbara, would you like to comment on this?
Yes, can you hear? Yes, so they posted this bond years ago to clear trees so they could do more investigative work on the property. They are now getting ready to start the church. We want this returned. They won't be clearing anything until the full permit comes in.
Okay. I'll move it.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. The next item is Resolution 2021-39. This is the approval of the correspondence log.
Move.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. Next item is items for special consideration, new business. The board members, would you like to make some comments? Anything to bring up?
I just want to, on the record, Barbara, just bring up that I think it's time for us to take a look at the town's local law having to do with the Fire Prevention Bureau. I think it needs to be updated because we're finding some gray areas and some loopholes that need to be addressed. So perhaps we can get together and discuss that with Jim and put together some proposal for the town board to take a look at. There's just some things that need to be updated within that provision.
Sure, we can set up a meeting, all of us together, and get that on the board in the next coming month or so.
I appreciate it. In the meantime, if you can send me the list of the members that are on the Fire Prevention Bureau, just so we can take a look at that and be on the same page, I would appreciate it.
Sure, I'll get that to you this week.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Other comments?
I just want to bring up that January 27th is the U.S. and the United Nations Holocaust Remembrance Day. And the United States Holocaust Memorial, the museum will have a lot of information out there so we don't forget the tragic time that we all went through. So thank you.
Thank you, Angela. Thank you. Anybody else? Chris, Al? Any comments? Okay, seeing none,
I think the rest of the stuff I have is probably going to be an executive session.
Yeah. Okay, so seeing none, then we'll have the motions for going into executive session on some personnel issues and litigation update. We'll start the meeting with 10 minutes from our recreation director. Then Adam, who's patiently waiting, will join in. But before we have the motion, Tom, would you like to introduce, remind the board, you sent out a memo earlier, remind the board how this is going to work to get them into that room.
All right, the rooms are all set. All I have to do is click the button, and Dick, you'll be going with the rest of the board,
Yes.
along with Jim and Sarah. And then as you're ready to invite others, just let me know.
So the number is what was sent out before?
Yep, everybody everybody's going to get a notification to go into that room.
Okay, so that notice will come, once we move. So do I have a motion to go into executive session?
I'll make a motion to move in executive session.
Second. There's motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Nay, abstention? Seeing none, motion passed. So we'll see most of you or some of you in executive session. But Jessica, 10 minutes. That's it. Okay.